The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stretched upward into darkness, its crystalline walls refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her weathered hands resting on its smooth surface. The gathered representatives of 17 spacefaring civilizations shifted in their seats, datapads ready to record what they assumed would be another tedious victory speech. Instead, Chen reached into her uniform pocket and withdrew a small holographic projector. The device hummed to life, casting thousands of starship designs into the air above the assembled dignitaries. Each vessel rotated slowly, revealing intricate details of hull configurations, weapon placements, and engine arrays. Before we discuss the terms of peace, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I would like to tell you about the Starweaver. She gestured to a sleek vessel near the center of the display. Registration number KR 771, commanded by Captain Morax. The ship housed 342 crew members, including 72 engineering specialists who had modified the primary reactor to achieve 0.03% better efficiency than standard specifications. Murmurs rippled through the audience. The Galactic Council's Supreme Minister leaned forward, mandibles clicking in confusion. This was not the expected celebration of human military might. Chen continued, her fingers dancing through the holographic display to highlight different sections of the ship. The Starweaver's mess hall was known for its garden section, where Lieutenant Kex maintained a collection of bioluminescent fungi from their homeworld. During third shift, off-duty crew members would gather there to share stories under the soft blue glow. She paused, her eyes distant with memory. The Starweaver was the 27th ship I encountered in the war. When our paths crossed in the Orion Spiral, they had just completed a resupply mission to the colony outpost on Nexus 7. Captain Morax chose to engage rather than retreat, protecting the civilian transport ships in their convoy. Their tactical decision saved 4,000 colonist lives. It also meant I had to destroy them. The chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the ever-present hum of environmental systems seemed muted. Chen's voice remained steady as she manipulated the hologram again, bringing up detailed crew manifests and service records. The Starweaver's final moments were marked by extraordinary courage. Their shield engineers rerouted power from life support to maintain defensive screens around the civilian ships. When their hull finally breached, the command crew was still at their stations, ensuring the safe departure of their charges. A representative from the Strategic Command rose from their seat, ionic tendrils writhing in agitation. Admiral Chen, why do you recite these details of a defeated enemy? Chen's gaze met the representative's compound eyes without flinching. Because every ship we destroyed carried stories. Because every vessel lost meant the end of a community. Because if we cannot remember those we've defeated with respect, then victory becomes nothing more than a tally of numbers. She expanded the holographic display, filling the chamber with the ghostly outlines of thousands of ships. I stand before you today not to celebrate our triumph, but to ensure that these vessels, these crews, are remembered. The Starweaver was only the beginning. Would you like to hear about the Lightbringer, KR 892? Or perhaps the Storm Seeker, KR 1156? You cannot possibly remember them all. The Supreme Minister interjected, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated disbelief. Chen's smile was small but certain. Every ship, every crew compliment, every captain's name and final decision. I remember them because they deserve to be more than faceless enemies. I remember them because their sacrifice deserves recognition, even, especially, from the one who ended their journey. The holographic ships continued their slow dance above the chamber, each one carrying a story waiting to be told. And Admiral Chen stood ready to share them all, transforming what could have been a simple victory speech into something far more profound. A memorial for those who had fought and fallen on both sides of the line. 3 years earlier, the soft glow of holographic displays illuminated Admiral Chen's quarters aboard the stellar command vessel Nightingale. Battle reports scrolled endlessly across multiple screens, each detailing the destruction wrought during their first major engagement with the enemy fleet. The fight had been decisive. 12 enemy vessels destroyed, with minimal losses on the human side. A gentle chime announced the arrival of Lieutenant Commander Rivera, Chen's aide. He stepped into the room and stopped short, surprised by the transformation of the usually pristine space. Every surface was covered with projected schematics, crew manifests, and technical specifications of the destroyed ships. "Admiral," Rivera ventured carefully, "the victory celebration is starting in the main hall." Chen didn't look up from the display she was studying. Her fingers traced the outline of an enemy vessel's engine configuration. "Did you know," she said softly, "that the Moonweaver's chief engineer had modified their quantum drive with a custom harmonic system? The design was brilliant, reduced power consumption by 17%. Rivera stepped closer, confused. "The Moonweaver, ma'am. The third ship we destroyed today." Chen finally looked up, her eyes bright with an intensity that made Rivera take half a step back. "Registration number KR 445. Captain Nexus had served aboard it for 15 years, working his way up from navigation officer. The crew called it the Lucky Star because it had survived 3 cosmic storm encounters." "Admiral, with respect, why are you studying the enemy vessels we've destroyed?" Chen stood, walking to a hologram showing the bridge layout of another ship. "If we must be their ending, Rivera, then we should at least honor their story. Each of these vessels wasn't just a target to eliminate. They were homes, communities, the culmination of countless individual dreams and aspirations." She gestured to the surrounding displays. "Look at this engineering, the innovation in their designs. These weren't mindless aggressors. They were explorers, builders, dreamers, just like us." Rivera watched as his admiral moved from display to display, her voice growing more animated. The star color, KR 447, had a hydroponics bay that produced enough fresh food to supply 3 other ships in their battle group. The Dawnseeker, KR 449, maintained a library of cultural artifacts from 30 different worlds. "You've memorized all this?" Rivera asked, amazement creeping into his voice. Chen nodded, bringing up yet another schematic. Every ship, every crew complement, every unique modification and achievement. If we're forced to destroy them, the least we can do is remember who they were. Later that night, after Rivera had left, Chen continued her work. She created a dedicated database, cross-referencing technical specifications with crew records and battle footage. Each entry became more than a simple record. It became a memorial, a testament to lives lived and lost among the stars. Word spread through the Nightingale's crew. Some worried their admiral was experiencing battle trauma, becoming too invested in the enemy's stories. Others understood it as a coping mechanism, a way to humanize the necessary violence of war. But as weeks passed, something unexpected began to emerge from Chen's detailed documentation. Patterns appeared in the enemy's tactics, revealed through her deep understanding of their ship's capabilities. Weaknesses became apparent not through strategic analysis, but through her knowledge of each vessel's unique modifications and quirks. Her seemingly obsessive study was unknowingly becoming a powerful tactical advantage. Yet Chen herself remained focused on the personal aspects of her project. Each new engagement meant more ships to remember, more stories to preserve. She began recording audio logs, speaking the names of ships and crew members like a litany, ensuring every detail remained fresh in her memory. "If we survive this war," she told Rivera during one of his regular checks on her, "someone needs to remember them as more than just casualties. Someone needs to ensure their innovations, their achievements, their sacrifices weren't meaningless, even if that someone has to be their enemy." The Memory Project, as her crew would later call it, had begun. And though none of them knew it yet, it would change the course of the war in ways no tactical analysis or military strategy ever could. The message arrived during third shift, transmitted on a frequency that hadn't been used since the war began. Stellar Command's communication center erupted into controlled chaos as analysts scrambled to authenticate the signal. Within minutes, the encrypted transmission reached Admiral Chen's quarters aboard the Nightingale. A diplomatic request, Lieutenant Commander Rivera reported, his holographic form hovering above Chen's desk, from someone claiming to be Junior Diplomat Vex of the Starborn Collective. They're requesting a direct meeting. Chen looked up from her latest memorial entry. She had been documenting the crystalline architecture of a recently destroyed survey vessel. Vex, she repeated softly. That name appears in the crew manifest of the Lightseeker, Kara 556. They served as a cultural liaison before their promotion. Rivera nodded, unsurprised by his admiral's recall. Command thinks it's a trap. The enemy hasn't attempted diplomatic contact since the war began. Play the message, Chen instructed, setting aside her documentation tools. The holographic display shifted, revealing a slender figure with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of eyes characteristic of the starborn species. Admiral Chen. The figure began, mandibles clicking in what linguists had identified as a sign of respect. I am Diplomat Vex. 3 months ago, you destroyed my mentor's vessel, the Storm Chaser. Chen's eyes closed briefly. KR-892. Captain Lazara. The ship carried a library of pre-war cultural exchanges and had modified their sensor array to better study stellar phenomena. In the message, Vex's eyes widened noticeably. Our intelligence intercepts have captured your transmissions, the ones where you speak of our fallen ships. At first, we thought it was psychological warfare, a way to demoralize our forces. But I have studied these recordings extensively. You remember them all, don't you? Location of the proposed meeting. Chen asked Rivera after the message ended. Neutral space, beyond the Carina Nebula. The Galactic Merchants Guild has offered their station as neutral ground. Rivera's expression turned concerned. Admiral, Stellar Command is divided. Some see this as an opportunity, others as an obvious ambush. Chen stood, walking to the wall of holographic displays that documented every ship she'd encountered. The Storm Chaser was something special, Rivera. It wasn't just Captain Lazara's ship, it was a repository of knowledge. When we were forced to destroy it, we lost more than a military asset. We lost centuries of accumulated wisdom. She gestured to a particular display, showing the Storm Chaser's unique design. Their hull was inscribed with historical accounts from 17 different worlds. The crew quarters contained artifacts from first contact scenarios, dating back 3 centuries. Lazara didn't just command a ship, she protected a legacy. And you believe this diplomat's interest is genuine because of this connection. Chen's fingers traced the holographic outline of the Storm Chaser's bridge. In all our battles, we've never fully understood why they fight. Perhaps, she paused, considering her words carefully, perhaps they've never understood why we remember. The decision reached Stellar Command an hour later. Admiral Chen would accept the diplomatic meeting, but with conditions. The Nightingale would maintain combat readiness, and a squadron of escort ships would remain at strategic positions around the merchant station. As preparations began, Chen received another transmission, this one a data packet containing detailed histories of several ships she had documented. The files confirmed much of what she had pieced together and added layers of context she hadn't known existed. They're responding to your memory project, Rivera observed as they reviewed the information. But why? Chen studied a newly received schematic, her expression thoughtful. Every culture has its own way of honoring the dead, Rivera. We've been so focused on surviving this war, we never stopped to consider what our remembrance might mean to them. The Nightingale's engines hummed to life, beginning their journey to the neutral station. In her quarters, Chen continued her documentation, adding the new information to her ever-growing memorial. With each entry, the line between enemy and teacher, between adversary and kindred spirit, grew just a little bit thinner. The Merchants Guild station hung in space like a crystalline snowflake, its delicate spires belying the reinforced structure beneath. Admiral Chen stood at the Nightingale's observation deck, watching as a starborn diplomatic vessel approached from the opposite direction. The ship's graceful lines matched perfectly with the schematic she had memorized of their cultural embassy-class vessels. Interesting design choice, Rivera noted, standing beside her. They've modified the standard embassy configuration. Those fins along the hull. Solar meditation arrays, Chen finished. The Starborn used them for ceremonial purposes. This ship, the Dawn Color, was specifically commissioned for high-level diplomatic missions. The arrays allow the entire crew to participate in unity rituals during long-range travel. The meeting chamber selected by the Merchants Guild featured a circular design, with transparent walls offering a panoramic view of space. Chen entered alone, as agreed, while Rivera monitored from the Nightingale. Diplomat Vex waited in the center of the room, their iridescent scales shifting colors in the starlight. Admiral Chen, Vex's translator, conveyed their harmonics into human speech. You honor us with your presence. The honor is mine, Diplomat Vex. I trust the Dawn Color's journey was peaceful. Vex's primary eyes widened slightly. You know my ship. I make it a point to study all vessels I might encounter, Chen replied, taking her seat at the circular table. Your meditation arrays are particularly elegant. The quantum harmonics must create beautiful patterns during unity rituals. Before Vex could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A fleet of warships emerged from quantum space, vessels bearing the markings of the Starborn military hardliners. The diplomatic meeting had become a battlefield. This was not our intent. Vex's harmonics carried distress. The military council. They must have tracked us. Chen's communicator crackled with Rivera's voice. Admiral, we're detecting 27 enemy warships. They're charging weapons. Understood. Chen stood calmly, but instead of rushing to her ship, she walked to the chamber's central console. Diplomat Vex, would you permit me to open a channel to all vessels? Confused but intrigued, Vex nodded their consent. Chen's fingers danced across the console, and her voice carried to every ship in the system. To the approaching Starborn fleet, I see the Starbearer, KR 771, leading your formation. Your quantum drive modification gives you a 0.3% efficiency boost in combat maneuvers. Your crew of 412 includes 63 engineering specialists who helped design that system. She continued without pause, her perfect recall painting pictures of ships and crews. The Lightweaver, KR 773, on your port flank. Your botanical gardens in Section 7 produce medicinal compounds used throughout your fleet. The Storm Dancer, KR 775, famous for surviving the Battle of Orion's Belt with innovative shield harmonics. One by one, she named each approaching vessel, detailing their achievements, their innovations, their crew's accomplishments. The enemy fleet's advance slowed, then stopped. You see, Chen turned to Vex. I study every ship not just for tactical advantages, but because each one represents lives, dreams, and achievements worth remembering. Even if we must be opponents, we can still honor each other's stories. The Starborn fleet held position, their weapons still charged but not firing. Over the command channel, a gruff voice spoke. You know our ships as if you served aboard them. Human. I know them because they deserve to be known, Chen responded. Each vessel in your fleet carries histories worth preserving. I would prefer not to add them to my memorial list today. A long moment of silence followed. Then, slowly, the enemy vessels powered down their weapons. The voice spoke again, this time with a different harmonic. Perhaps we should join these diplomatic talks. Vex's scales rippled with relief and amazement. Admiral Chen, they said softly, you've just demonstrated something our military council needs to witness. Your memory isn't just record-keeping. It's a bridge between our peoples. The crisis had been averted not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through the simple act of remembering, of acknowledging the worth in each vessel and crew. As representatives from both fleets prepared to join the discussions, Chen quietly added another entry to her mental archive. The day remembrance proved stronger than weapons. The data crystal sat on Admiral Chen's desk aboard the Nightingale, its faceted surface catching starlight from the viewport. Diplomat Vex had presented it at the conclusion of their expanded negotiations, calling it a gift of remembrance. Now, as Chen activated it, the crystal projected a sprawling web of information throughout her quarters. "These are ancestral records," Rivera breathed, walking through the holographic display. "Ship histories going back centuries." Chen stood in the center of the projection, her eyes tracking the intricate connections between vessels. "Not just histories," she corrected softly. "Legacies. Look at these family lines, generations of crews serving on the same ships, passing down modifications and improvements like family heirlooms." The display showed the evolution of starborn vessels across time, each ship carrying not just crew and cargo, but traditions and memories. Chen stopped at one particular node in the web, the Stormweaver, KOR 445, the third ship we destroyed in our first engagement. Its quantum core design was perfected over 4 generations of engineer families. Rivera watched as his admiral began cross-referencing the new information with her existing records. "This changes everything we thought we knew about their fleet structure. It was never just a fleet," Chen said, her fingers tracing the lineage of a destroyer-class vessel. "Each ship is a chapter in their cultural story. When we destroy one, we're not just eliminating a military asset, we're ending a legacy that spans generations." The revelations contained in the data crystal spread through Stellar Command like ripples in still water. Tactical analysts pored over the engineering histories, finding patterns in ship designs that reflected cultural values rather than just military necessity. Anthropologists discovered that starborn vessels were more than transportation. They were living archives of their civilization. Chen spent days integrating the new information into her memorial project. Each ship she had documented gained new depths of meaning. The Dreamseeker, KR 892, hadn't just been a survey vessel. It carried the combined astronomical observations of 7 generations of explorer families. The Lightbringer, KR 917, contained a library of engineering innovations dating back to their species' first quantum drive experiments. Admiral, Rivera entered her quarters one morning to find her surrounded by an even more complex holographic display than usual. "The Joint Chiefs are requesting your presence. They want to discuss the implications of this information." Chen nodded, but didn't look away from her work. "Did you know that starborn ships are considered living entities? Not in the biological sense, but in the cultural one. Each vessel accumulates memories, stories, achievements. They believe that as long as these stories are remembered, the ship and its crew continue to exist in some form." She turned to face her aide, her expression thoughtful. "My memory project. I've been accidentally participating in one of their most sacred practices. By remembering their ships, by knowing their stories, I've been keeping them alive according to their beliefs." Rivera's eyes widened with understanding. "That's why Diplomat Vex was so moved by your recitations. You weren't just showing respect. I was preserving their legacies," Chen finished. "Even as their enemy, I was ensuring their stories wouldn't be lost. In their culture, that's a profound responsibility." She gestured to the surrounding display, where thousands of ship histories intertwined like constellations. "This isn't just tactical data, Rivera. This is their civilization's memory, passed down through their vessels. And they've chosen to share it with us." The implications were staggering. What had begun as Chen's personal mission to honor fallen opponents had evolved into something far more significant, a bridge between two species' ways of remembering, of preserving what was precious to them. As she prepared for her meeting with the Joint Chiefs, Chen added another layer to her memorial project. Now, each ship's entry included not just its specifications and crew, but its place in the grand tapestry of starborn culture. Every vessel became a thread in a story that stretched across generations, and she was no longer just an admiral remembering her enemies. She had become a custodian of their living history. The stellar cartography chamber aboard the Nightingale hummed with energy as Admiral Chen initiated the new mapping protocol. Around her, stars bloomed into existence, not just as navigation points, but as memory markers. Each point of light now carried a story. "The system is ready, Admiral," the chief technician reported, making final adjustments to the quantum projection array. "Though I'm still not sure I understand the purpose of these modifications." Chen stepped into the center of the star field, her uniform reflecting pinpoints of light. "Traditional star maps show us where we are," she explained, reaching out to touch a glowing marker. "This one shows us who we were." The marker expanded at her touch, revealing the final coordinates of the starborne vessel Dreamweaver. Technical specifications and crew manifests appeared alongside cultural records spanning 3 generations of service. The ship's last moments were there too, documented with the same care as its achievements. Every engagement site becomes a memorial, Rivera observed from his position near the chamber's entrance. "And a connection point." Chen nodded, moving through the star field with practiced grace. The Starborn believe that significant locations retain echoes of what happened there. By mapping these points, by remembering what occurred at each one, we create a network of shared history. The project had grown far beyond its original scope. What began as Chen's personal mission to honor fallen opponents had evolved into a revolutionary communication system. Each battlefield, each point of contact between human and starborn forces became a node in an expanding web of understanding. "We're receiving a transmission," Rivera announced, checking his datapad. "The Starborn Cultural Council is requesting access to our memorial network." Chen smiled. "Granted. Let them see what we've built." The star field shifted as new data flowed in. Starborn ships still in active service began appearing alongside the memorial markers, their crews adding their own stories to the growing tapestry. The distinction between past and present, between friend and foe, blurred in the light of shared remembrance. "Remarkable." A familiar harmonic voice echoed through the chamber. Diplomat Vex's holographic form materialized beside Chen, their scales reflecting the surrounding starlight. "You've created something our scholars have theorized about for centuries. A living memory map." Chen gestured to a nearby cluster of points. "The Battle of Orion's Belt. We lost 17 ships there, the Starborn 23. But look at how the energy patterns flow between the markers. Every ship's quantum signature left an imprint, creating connections we never knew existed." Vex moved through the display, their multiple eyes taking in the intricate patterns. "Our ancestors believed that quantum space retained impressions of significant events. They spoke of a great web of memory binding all spacefaring races together. We thought it was merely poetry." "Sometimes poetry becomes prophecy," Chen replied, adjusting the display to show the expanding network of connections. "Every ship we add to the memorial strengthens the pattern. Every story we preserve adds another thread to the web." The implications reached far beyond military applications. Cultural exchange programs began utilizing the memorial network, using battle sites as gathering points for peace talks. Young officers from both species would meet at these coordinates, sharing stories of the ships and crews who had fought there. "Admiral," Rivera interrupted gently, "Strategic Command is requesting an update on the network's military applications." Chen turned to face her aide, her expression firm. "Tell them the truth. This isn't a weapon or a tactical advantage. It's a reminder that every point of light in this map represents lives lived, choices made, and stories that deserve to be remembered." The star field continued its slow dance around them, each point carrying echoes of the past into the future. In the space between the stars, human and starborn vessels now moved with greater awareness, their crews conscious that they were not just traversing distance, but adding their own stories to an ancient and growing tapestry. "We're not just plotting coordinates anymore," Chen said softly, watching as new connections formed between the points of light. "We're mapping the memory of space itself." The emergency alert pierced through the nightingale's quiet hum. Admiral Chen looked up from her work in the stellar cartography chamber, where she had been adding details to the memorial network. The holographic star field flickered as Rivera's urgent message came through. Admiral, we're detecting multiple quantum signatures. The starborn traditionalist fleet has launched an offensive. They're targeting the memorial coordinates. Chen's expression remained calm, but her eyes hardened. How many ships? 300 vessels, led by the Dreadnought-class Stormbreaker. They're systematically erasing our memorial markers, using quantum disruption fields to scatter the energy patterns we've been preserving. The Admiral stood, watching as points of light in the display began to flicker and fade. Each disappearing marker represented not just coordinates, but stories, memories, connections built over months of careful documentation. "Get me a channel to Diplomat Vex," Chen ordered, her fingers already moving through the command sequences to prepare the Nightingale for battle. "And show me the Stormbreaker's approach vector." The massive starborn warship appeared in the display, its crystalline hull bristling with weapons. Chen studied it for a moment, then began to speak. "Stormbreaker, KR 1156, commissioned 3 decades ago under Captain Nexus. Your quantum core contains elements from 7 different stellar forges, harmonized to create the most powerful drive signature in the starborn fleet." Her voice carried across all frequencies as she continued. "Your observation deck features a memorial wall listing every engagement you've survived. The crystalline fragments embedded in that wall come from the first starborn ship to achieve quantum travel. Your crew considers them sacred relics." The Stormbreaker's advance slowed fractionally. Chen pressed on, walking through the fading star field as she spoke. "Your current commander, High Captain Xerix, comes from a line of shipbuilders dating back 6 generations. The modifications to your weapon systems were designed by their great-grandmother." "Admiral," Rivera interrupted softly, "they're still advancing. The disruption fields are continuing to erase our memorial markers." Chen nodded, her voice never wavering. "I remember every ship that's part of your battle group, High Captain. The Lightseeker, with its quantum-attuned gardens. The Dreambringer, whose engine harmonics are tuned to match ancient starborn prayer frequencies. The Stormweaver, carrying the combined astronomical observations of 12 generations." The star field continued to dim around them, as the disruption fields did their work. But Chen wasn't finished. She activated a new sequence in the mapping system, and suddenly each vanishing point burst with renewed energy. "You can erase these markers," she declared, "but you cannot erase the memories they represent. Every ship I've encountered, every crew member's story, every innovation and achievement. They live on in more than just quantum echoes." The memorial network pulsed with unexpected brilliance. Where the disruption fields touched, the markers didn't simply vanish. They transformed, their energy redistributing across the entire network in new patterns. "Fascinating." Diplomat Vex's voice came through, thick with emotion. "The network isn't being destroyed, High Captain. It's evolving. The memories are too deeply interconnected to be erased." Chen gestured, and the display shifted to show the new patterns forming. "Your own ships are part of this tapestry now. Every attempt to disrupt the network only adds your own stories to its weave. You cannot destroy these memories without sacrificing your own history." The Stormbreaker's weapons remained charged, but its disruption fields began to power down. High Captain Xerix's voice, when it came, carried notes of both frustration and wonder. "You remember the histories of ships you've never encountered. You speak of our traditions as if they were your own. Because they are worth remembering," Chen replied simply. "Worth preserving, worth sharing. Your ships carry the legacy of your people among the stars. Let us honor that legacy together, not tear it apart." The star field stabilized, the memorial markers settling into their new configurations. Where the disruption fields had struck, the network had become stronger, more intricate, weaving together the very forces that had tried to unmake it. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Admiral Chen completed her recitation of the 2000th ship. The holographic display above the assembly showed the vast network of memories her project had become, each point of light pulsing with stored stories and connected histories. The Starweaver, she concluded, her voice carrying the weight of memory, was not just the first ship I encountered. It became the foundation of understanding between our peoples. Its quantum signature still resonates through the memorial network, connecting past to present, enemy to ally. The Supreme Minister rose, crystalline form catching the light from the display. You have shown us something unprecedented, Admiral Chen. But what do you propose we do with this network of memories? Chen smiled, her fingers dancing through the holographic controls. The display shifted, showing a new layer of information. Each point in this network marks where a ship ended its journey. I propose we use these coordinates to begin new ones. The star field transformed. Where destroyed ships had been marked, new structures began to appear. Research stations, cultural exchange centers, diplomatic outposts. Every coordinate in the memorial network holds quantum echoes of both human and starborn ships. These resonances create natural harmony points, perfect locations for joint ventures. Diplomat Vex stepped forward, their scales shifting through patterns of deep agreement. The network has already proven it can withstand attempts to destroy it. Instead of fighting that strength, we should build upon it. High Captain Xerix, now serving as military liaison to the Peace Council, raised their command staff in the traditional gesture of respect. Our attempts to erase the network only made it stronger. Perhaps that is a lesson we should heed. The display zoomed in on specific points, showing detailed plans for the proposed facilities. Each one incorporated design elements from both species, creating spaces where the two civilizations could work and grow together. The Starborn believe that significant locations retain echoes of the past. Chen explained, highlighting a particular nexus point. These stations will serve as more than diplomatic outposts. They will be living archives, places where both our peoples can study the quantum resonances of our shared history. Rivera, standing at his customary place beside the Admiral, activated a secondary display showing the scientific data. Initial studies indicate that the quantum harmonics at these coordinates enhance both species' ability to access and store information. It's as if the very fabric of space has been waiting for us to recognize these connection points. The council chamber erupted in discussion as representatives from both species began to see the possibilities. Chen watched as her memorial project, born from a desire to honor fallen opponents, transformed into a foundation for lasting peace. There is one more thing, she said, her voice cutting through the excited conversations. The display shifted again, showing a new vessel design. I propose we build a ship together. Not a warship, but a remembrance vessel. Its quantum core will be tuned to the memorial network's frequencies, allowing it to navigate through the connected points and strengthen the bonds between them. The design incorporated elements from every ship in Chen's memorial archive, engineering innovations from the Starborn, human adaptability, and shared discoveries made during the war. It would serve as both a testament to what was lost and a beacon for what could be gained. We will call it the Memory Keeper, she continued, and its first mission will be to visit every coordinate in the network, gathering the quantum echoes of our shared past to help guide our common future. As the council members studied the proposal, Chen looked out at the assembled representatives of both species. In their faces, she saw the same understanding that had driven her to begin her memorial project. That remembrance was not just about honoring the past, but about building a future worthy of those memories. The Starweaver's quantum signature pulsed gently in the display above them, a reminder of where this journey had begun. 2,000 ships, 2,000 stories, had led them to this moment, and in the space between the stars, new stories waited to be written.